But strangely, at this moment, I am actually feeling quite relaxed.
Hey.
Welcome to Working Title, the show where we talk about books, movies, and everything in between. I've done it. I found another book to review. Now, this one I actually found by accident. I was at the library, a frequent location of mine, and while looking through the YA section, I saw a very familiar logo. If you listen to my episodes about the After movies, then you may recognize Wattpad, the popular fanfiction site that held the original After fanfiction. Well, today's victim, Textrovert by Lindsay Summers, had a very similar start. Textrovert by Lindsay Summers is a 2017 young adult romance novel. However, the story dates back to 2012 as an original story on Wattpad, under the name The Cell Phone Swap. Summers' username being Do Not Microwave. That's such a great name. Honestly, Wattpad has some very interesting usernames. It's great. The story, which is still up if you want to read it, was updated pretty consistently for about 3 years. It has a total of 41 actual chapters, with an epilogue being posted June 5th, 2015. The renamed novel was published by KCP Loft, an imprint of Kids Can Print, on May 2nd, 2017. Reviews appear to be mixed, having an average of 3.6 out of 5 on Goodreads and 4.7 out of 5 on Barnes & Noble. So, my hopes are high. So what is Textrovert like? Let's find out together. Spoiler warning for Textrovert. So I've decided the best way to go about this is to summarize the story as I read it. It allows me breaks and also gives me the chance to write the script as I go, making sure I can get this episode done in time. So, day 1. I read chapters 1 through 4. Off the bat, something I like about this book is that the chapters have titles, which is something that I don't see too often anymore. The chapter numbers / titles are also in text bubbles, which is just a nice little aesthetic detail that I think adds to the story. We open on our main character, Keely Brewer, arguing with her twin brother, Zach.
And I'm Zach. Nice to meet you.
Yes, we know Zach. Keely is arguing with her brother over the keys to the car. Keely and her friend Nikki are at the fair because it's their tradition to ride the Ferris wheel towards the end of summer vacation. Zach wants to go to a party. After saying he'll let her copy his homework, the summer work she's failed to do. This is actually something I like about the book.
What? How?
Hear me out. I've noticed this a lot in Wattpad stories, but it's not exclusive to them. Is the female protagonist is usually this tight-laced, play-by-the-rules, everything is done on time kind of girls. A perfect example of this is Tessa Young from After. But Keely not being like that actually makes her a more relatable character. To me, at least. Anyway, Zach says he'll let her copy his homework. She agrees, but tells him to call her if he needs a ride. Which, in hindsight, I'm not sure. Like, I get that once she gets there, she would drive the car, but, like, how would she get there is the question. It comes up a lot, but, yeah. Moving on. After he leaves, Keely realizes that she left her phone at the food area of the fair, so she has Nikki save their spot in line while she runs and grabs it. She goes back and asks Nikki if she'll study with her, but Nikki has summer school and then is getting lunch with her study group. And that's the end of chapter 1. When I finished each chapter, I wrote a little summary that was basically my takeaway from that chapter and my opinions. For chapter 1, I wrote, Keely is struggling with not knowing what her future is going to be and feeling like her friends are leaving her behind, which is a very relatable feeling. I remember my senior year feeling like I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, and like my friends' lives were all moving on without me. It's not a great feeling, and I'm kind of glad to see that represented, even in a small way, in this book. Chapter 2. This is where we meet our love interest. Our leading man, who we will later find out is named Talon. But that may not be his name? I'll get to that in a minute. Apparently, Keely wasn't the only one who lost her phone by the tables, so her and Talon grabbed each other's phones. If you're wondering how they're able to go through each other's phones, it's established in the first chapter that Keely doesn't have a password on her phone, and I'm guessing Talon doesn't either. I would like to point out, though, he calls her at 1 in the morning, which is such a non-point, but did he just not notice until 1 in the morning? So, they talk, he very blatantly flirts with her, they tell each other their names, and the chapter ends. So, what did past Ashley have to say? Talon and Keely talk for the first time. I don't like him that much, but I don't despise him. He's a lovable jackass, and I enjoy their chemistry. Keely also admits that she struggles with living in her brother's shadow. So, Talon is definitely a lovable jackass in the same vein as Hardin Scott. However, where there were things to like about Hardin in the beginning, I just find Talon annoying. I just peeked over at my notes from chapter 3 and I wrote Talon is an asshole. I'm hoping that Talon gets more likable as the story goes on, but at this current moment, I don't like him. Chapter 3. So, Zach is home from the party and gets grounded for drinking and driving. He's mad at Keely because he tried to call her, and only her, and because Talon is an asshole, she had no idea. So Zach blames Keely for his stupid actions. Keely texts Talon basically saying, "What the fuck, we need to switch phones," but Talon left for football camp that morning, and didn't feel the need to mention that.
If you would, kill me, please.
I understand that this is for plot purposes, but that doesn't make him any less of an asshole. Oh, Ashley. Oh, wait. I'm Ashley. Past Ashley. What do you have to say? Zach got in trouble for drinking and driving. He treats Keely like it's all her fault and refuses to hear her out. Talon is still annoying, and he is on his way to football camp, so he and Keely won't be able to switch phones until next week. Of course, they're going to need to forward each other's texts and calls, but because Keely was upset, she initially said no. So now she has to try and get Talon to agree. And that's the end of Chapter 3. Chapter 4, my summary is actually just a summary, so thank you, Past Ashley, for doing the work for me. Keely's dad talks to her about college. Keely wants to explore and go to college on the East Coast. Her dad and Zach are trying to convince her to go to the same school as Zach so he won't be alone. I'm going to interrupt my past self for a minute. I actually wrote that Zach is holding her back, and I still agree with that statement. I'm going to read you their exchange. "He wants to go to the same school as you." Zach took her need to leave personally. He didn't understand it wasn't about him. It was about her. She loved this beach town, but she wanted to see what else was out there. Her dad continued, "I'd feel better if you two were together." "Dad, I can handle myself." "It's not you I'm worried about," he confessed. She was surprised. Everyone viewed her brother as the more capable twin. I was personally bothered by this, so I'm probably just projecting, but to me, it kind of seems like she's expected to take care of her brother. But anyway, while helping Zach move some things so he can mow the lawn, he mentions reputation being important to guys. And that's when Keely gets an idea. She starts going through his phone, and she finds my favorite thing about Talon. He likes to dress up peeps, like the marshmallows, and take pictures of them. He also listens to country music. While going through his phone, his mom calls. His southern mother. Talon is a nerdy country boy, and I am so here for it. But so Keely talks to his mom, and she's confused when Keely calls him Talon, implying that that's not his name? Name reveal at the end, maybe?
Right. No!
We haven't read it yet. Anyway, Talon's mom sends a picture of when she went to one of his games dressed as Dolly Parton. This gets Talon to agree to forward calls and messages, and the chapter ends with Keely sending him an article. 12 signs she's just not into you. Bet, bitch. I will say these first 4 chapters are pretty short. Chapters 3 and 4 are a little bit longer, but they're mostly text messages, so I was able to read them pretty quickly. Day 2. I only read 2 chapters today. In my defense, I did things today. So...
You're an even bigger moron than I thought you were.
At least I can read.
My God.
Yeah, I said it. It's a fictional character. Anyway, Chapter 5, Zach sneaks out and goes to a party despite being grounded. Because he's drunk and shouldn't drive, he calls Keely in the middle of the night so she can take him home. Which, she takes their shared car to pick him up. So how the fuck did he get there in the first place? She talks to Talon while she drives to the party, and he's wondering the same thing I am. Why does Keely just drop what she's doing for Zach? I understand that they're siblings and they're close. I have siblings too. I am very close with my younger sister. But sometimes when your sibling is being a dumbass, you gotta let them get out of it on their own. They won't learn otherwise. And another thing, while we're on this topic, later on Keely says Zach has more friends than he can count, so why didn't he just ask one of them for a ride? In that whole party, there wasn't one person sober enough to drive him home. Moving on, Keely picks Zach's drunk ass up, and Zach reveals that she set up a tour at Barnett. That he set up a tour at Barnett, a school near home, aka the complete opposite of what Keely wants. Then has the audacity to get upset when she doesn't want to take him on the tour with her. They get home and go to bed. End of chapter 5. Past Ashley, what do we think? Talon is starting to grow on me. I hate Zach. If he has so many friends, why can't he ask one of them for a ride? Why does it always need Keely to bail him out? I agree with Talon. He needs some tough love. I am so smart.
I'm a fool, not an idiot. This is...
Alright, maybe. But yeah, Zach needs to fend for himself and stop expecting Keely to get him out of trouble. I really hope he becomes self-sufficient by the end of this story. Chapter 6, not a lot happens in this chapter. Talon helps Keely with her math, and she invites him to tour Barnett with her. Their conversations are very fun to read. I stand by my previous statement that Talon is a nerd. So, little actually happens in this chapter that what I just said was past me's words. Thanks, Past Ashley, for doing the work for me. Again. Well, I still technically did the work, but that was in the past. So, I read chapters 7 to 13, and there's not a lot to be said about these chapters, so I'm not going to go chapter by chapter. Keely has a sleepover with Nikki. She says that she and Talon are planning on meeting up the next day to switch phones. If you're like me, then you're thinking that this is kind of early for them to be switching back. Don't worry, there's still plenty of drama to be had, especially in chapter 13. Something I do want to bring up, though, is how common this is in Wattpad stories. A lot of times they will have a gimmick, so to speak, to draw the audience in, and then drop it towards the beginning. It can be annoying at times, but I actually don't have a problem with it here. You can only go so far with they're stuck with each other's phones. Plus, if they don't switch back, we don't get the most exciting part of chapter 12. But we'll get there when we get there. Anyway, Nikki gets jealous of how often Keely and Talon are texting. Keely points this out, but Nikki has no right to be jealous when she's been blowing Keely off for her college friends. So they do their nails and they watch movies. Late in the night, when Nikki is asleep, Talon also happens to be awake and calls Keely, clearly upset about something. We never learn why exactly he called her, but after having a heart-to-heart about Talon moving from Texas to California his freshman year, he feels better. I want to point out how much I love Talon. It is so rare for a love interest to be so unabashedly nerdy. Typically, as with Hart and Scott, they read classic literature, but they're also super deep and misunderstood. Talon is a nerd who likes/is good at math and dresses up peeps and takes pictures of them for something called peepsoramas. I love him so much. Next day, they are finally meeting. They talk for a while. He initially is going to join Keely and Nikki, but when Keely tells her that Zach Brewer is her brother, he freaks out and leaves. Some time passes, and it's finally the first day of school. Not much happens during school, but after, Talon calls her drunk. Oh my god, I can use it.
I can't drown my demons, they know how to swim!
I knew I'd be able to use it eventually. Anyway, not much comes from their conversation. Couple of days go by, and Zach is overexerting himself so he can get a football scholarship to Barnett, his dream school. He's nervous because he knows that Barnett is looking at his rival J.T. Harrington, though Zach has nothing to worry about. How do you know, I may ask? Well,
I want people to live their dreams.
Would you really call this a dream?
Look, I'm a cucumber.
so Keely is going to tour Barnett, even though she doesn't want to go there, and the only reason she's going is because he set it up. Have I mentioned how much I hate Zach?
Hey, why are you so surprised? Just because I'm not smart doesn't mean I can't learn, okay?
I know you can learn. I'm hoping he can. Anyway, Keely's going to Barnett, and remember when she invited Talon? It may seem like after what happened between them, he wasn't going to go. Well, guess who tagged along?
Oh, hello. I'm Harry Potter.
No, it's Talon. They have a 4-hour train ride, and in that time, he apologizes for being an asshole, and they debate a variety of topics, including whether or not a sword is a good weapon for the zombie apocalypse, which, it 100% would be, and who the hero of Lord of the Rings is. They finally make it, and after getting bored of the tour, because neither of them wants to apply, they decide to ditch the tour. While out, they make Peeps s'mores, and the part I was hyping up happened. They kissed! After that, they head back, and after Talon offers her a ride, she tells him that her brother is going to pick her up. That's when it goes south. Remember how I said that Zach didn't have anything to worry about with JT? Well, that's because Talon doesn't plan on applying to Barnett. That's right. Talon is JT. Obviously feeling betrayed, she goes home with Zach. After everything building up, she snaps out at him, and that is chapter 13. I'm halfway through the story now. My thought at this point is I really like it. I was sitting on my couch upside down reading. I really like Talon. I called him a lovable jackass similar to Hardin Scott. However, unlike Hardin, Talon doesn't seem to have violent rage or the same self-destructive habits. So long as we don't find out their relationship is a bet, we should be good. In all seriousness, I have one criticism of the book. We know that they're going to end up together at the end. Yeah, they're fighting now, but she's going to forgive him. That's just one of the pitfalls of the genre. Does it affect how I feel about their fights? Yeah, but it doesn't stop me from wanting them to work it out. And honestly, I'm excited to see where the rest of this book goes. Okay, so I finished the book. I read 13 chapters in one morning. Granted, the chapters aren't very long, and even the longer ones have a lot of text messages, so they're easy to fly through. A lot happens in the second half of the book, so obviously upset that Talon lied about who he was, which I will continue to call him Talon for consistency's sake, and his name technically is Talon. It's James Talon Harrington IV. I wonder why he shortens it. But so he tries to get her to talk to him so he can explain by sending her pictures of Peeps with index cards that have messages. Talon and his Peeps. Chapter 17, page 149. They walked over to his truck and she hopped in. She looked in the back seat. Piles and piles of Peeps. It looked like the factory had exploded in his truck. Where is he getting all of these Peeps? And how does he afford them? I'm choosing to believe that he sneaks into the Peeps factory and fits as many into his truck as he can fit. Also, Peeps HQ is in South Dakota. Not something I wanted to know before I read this book. I'm going to skip over a lot because I do want you guys to read this book. Eventually, Keely takes him back, and because Zach is the worst, they have to keep their relationship a secret. But in chapter 16, they go on their first date, and it is so cute. They go geocaching, which is something that Talon used to do with his grandfather, who he was really close with. But he hasn't done it since his grandfather died. And get this, the treasure they're looking for, Talon left specifically for Keely. I love him. I feel like it's been such an escalation from I find him annoying to absolutely gushing over him. Throughout the relationship, there are some ups and downs. The biggest down comes from Talon's ex-girlfriend, Claire. Claire was Talon's girlfriend freshman year. However, she cheated on him with Keely's brother, Zach. In a moment of anger, Talon shares revealing photos of her. I really hope I'm not the only one getting after flashbacks. Especially after I just reviewed After Everything last month. So, Keely essentially, he says, I can't trust you after this, which is understandable. However, after Gavin, who I now realize I don't think I mentioned, all you need to know about Gavin is that he's a freshman that Zach is supposed to be mentoring and happens to be Talon's cousin. After Gavin speaks highly of him, Claire talks to Keely and tells her that she forgives him for what happened. Keely decides to take him back, and her big romantic gesture is switching their phones and setting a bunch of alarms with messages telling him how she feels. They meet at the beach and are back together. Zach texts Keely and asks her what time she'll be home and says that he'll cover for her if she stays out past curfew.
Hey, why are you so surprised? Just because I'm not smart doesn't mean I can't learn, okay?
Yes, Zach, you can learn. The book ends with Talon and Keely back together, or with their futures ahead of them. I really like this book. I've said before that romance isn't my genre. I tend to avoid it usually, but this book is all the things I liked about the first After movie. The comedy, the cute relationship moments, and cranks them up to 10. The relationship is a bit of a roller coaster, but when they finally are together at the end, it is so satisfying. I actually say this as a compliment. If you liked After, you will like Textrovert. Some of the chapters I think could have been combined, but from a publishing standpoint, I understand why they are separated. Overall, 9 out of 10. Would 100% recommend. So that was Textrovert. Like I said, I really like this book, and I think you will too. If you want to suggest episodes, get updates on episodes, or you just want to chat, you can follow me on Twitter at AshleyMarieWT, or you can email me at AshleyMarieWT@gmail. Check out my Tumblr, I've been doing a lot of polls on there. Check out my Instagram, AshleyMarieWT, I post my crochet and knitting projects. If you want to watch video versions of episodes, you can watch those on YouTube. I recently changed the name to Ashley Marie. There isn't a video version of this review, but there is a video where I try mystery crochet patterns on Pinterest. So, if that interests you, check it out. Until next time, peace out.
On to the next one, bitches!